All right, you guys ready to go live?
I'm live.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, Steven already hit the thing. All right. Thanks for checking out Museum Ship Mafia. My name is Ken Stano with the YouTube channel History X. Tonight we got another episode, live crossover broadcast episode for you. And let's see. All right, yeah, everyone's all three of us checked in. We've got John Epp, curator of the USS Slater out of Albany, New York. YouTube channel. If you guys need to check out the USS Slater, make sure you search for the USS Slater. And then, of course, we've got Shane Stevenson, the curator, and Stephen Tedesco, the educational director from the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park. To check out their YouTube channel, make sure you guys search for the Buffalo Naval Park, buffalonavalpark.org. Let's see. We got a whole bunch of people checking in tonight. I see Hoist the Jack, Ed Webster, Eric. You guys can let us know how we sound. Oh, and there's Rob from Rocky Mountain Life Prospecting. Rob, good to see you. Let us know how we sound. John Epp, how you doing this evening?
I am even better now that we're back together.
Yeah, it has been a while.
That's great to hear.
Actually, it's what has it been? About not quite 2 months since we've done a live broadcast. Is that correct?
I
have no idea. It was sometime in August, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
I think it was. And then, of course, like I said a few moments ago, we've got Shane and Steven from the Buffalo Naval Park. You guys settled in, ready to go?
Absolutely, sir.
All right. Fantastic. Well, tonight, for those of you that aren't aware, I want to start off with John Epp over at the USS Slater, because the last time we did a live broadcast, they had 650 subscribers to their YouTube channel. Now, as of tonight, they are at 1,000. Well, what I saw was 1,610. John, why don't you give us a clue? How did you guys jump 1,000 subscribers in such a short amount of time?
Yeah. So, for the end of summer into September, our engineers every Monday they were preparing to run one of our 8-cylinder service generators. It's worked for many years. We have not run it in 2 years since the 2020 Drydock. So it was just to exercise and make sure everything was working, fix any leaks. So we made a video on that. I don't know, it's like 15 minutes long, something like that. That was 2 weeks ago. And I think we're up to just over 70,000 views right now. And we've doubled our subscriber base just by that video. Oh, and we are now monetized. So that's cool.
Hey.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, wait. So not only did you hit 1,000 subscribers, but you guys hit the 4,000 hours of watch time that's required.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Now let's hope you just get that PIN number and you could do that second. That's where we kind of stuck. We're kind of stuck right now in that. But yeah, how did that video hit 70,000 views? That, like, did you partner with anybody or
no?
How did you...
It was literally we just uploaded it, and within 24 hours, it was something like 10 or 15,000 views. So something happened. The YouTube algorithm must have just been like, "Hey, we like you today, so there you go." But people are obsessed with engines and ship engineering, so I think that's probably the main reason it took off.
Have you and for those of you that haven't seen it, or for those of you that don't regularly visit the USS Slater YouTube channel, you really should check it out because they do a lot of behind the scenes maintenance videos, among other things.
Another one just went up a couple hours ago.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah. See, now that one I wasn't aware of, but this particular video, and like John said a few moments ago, you know, the YouTube algorithm, it's a mystery to all of us at times. But when the YouTube algorithm grabs a video, and I've had the algorithm grab a couple of my videos and then they just skyrocket, and you realize like, wow, I don't know what, it's a mystery. But at the same time, if you watch this video, go to the USS Slater, they did an engine startup video. What? That was about a month ago?
2 weeks ago. I need to make it clear. This is not the propulsion engines. This is simply the engine that ran electricity on board. So while it's still an engine, it's not.
Yeah. Well, and we'll get to that in a second. But okay. But I thought the way that you guys filmed it was very, very interesting because, well, first of all, let's give credit. Who actually recorded that video?
James Miles. He's one of our newer volunteers, early 30s. We put out basically a help wanted on our Facebook page about a year ago, like end of
You gotta be
August of
kidding me. A
2020.
help. You just
Yeah,
posted a
looking
help
for
wanted ad.
volunteers because we were down to one engineer, one volunteer engineer. So we're like, Mike needs friends. Please come on down, be friends with Mike. We need engineers. We had a bunch of people come down. So he's been doing it for a year now. His entire thing is he climbs under all the machinery down into the bilges and just scrapes our bilges and cleans it. It's the biggest restoration work we have going on right now. Most important restoration work because ships rust from the inside out generally. So he's been doing that. And then he started doing the work vlogs, I want to say in January or February. And he's mainly responsible for the success of our YouTube channel right now.
Well, and what I wanted to get at when you talk about the success, or wait, so he's been doing these videos since January?
Yeah. So the work vlog videos, that's all him.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. And so he takes you through almost from the time he flips the lights on to all the steps that needed to occur. At one point, he's even changing a light bulb in the engineering space.
Yeah.
And I found that fascinating, and I'm sure that's what a lot of engineering geeks like me, gearheads, and anyone that loves engine startup videos, that's probably what they found most interesting about it, is because he takes you step by step, almost like what a day in the life is of what it takes to get this engine started. And you said a few moments ago that, okay, it's not one of the primary propulsion engines, but it's a pretty big engine.
It is. It's an 8-cylinder. Speaking of propulsion engines, technically, two of them have been quote unquote turned on within the past 20 years. In the early 2000s, they were able to turn one over through the air, and they also were to hand crank one. What's pretty cool is the Slater's at a point where we don't have many restoration projects going on anymore. After steering is probably the last one. After that, we are considering going down into our B1 engineering space and possibly restoring that to what the other engine rooms look like. So that is going to be very interesting because right now it's just grease and oil. Hasn't been touched since the 80s. Everything is still in Greek. So if people are really into engineering, getting it on film of start to end, that's going to be a lot of fun. We haven't committed to it yet, but it's a possibility.
I think it could be a lesson, the level of success that you guys are having with this video. I think it could be a lesson to other museum ships out there, which is obviously people will find the history fascinating. They'll find, general drone video overhead of the ship fascinating. But when you talk about the actual operation of something as big as an engine, or even just the restoration of an engine, that in and of itself can fascinate people for hours.
Mm-hmm. And we have engine room tours on the ship. It's not part of the main tour. It's an add-on tour for like $6. And we've been pushing that a lot the past 2 seasons, and people love it. It's a lot of fun.
Now, Buffalo Naval Park, when are you guys going to be starting an engine?
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to get some emergency diesels going, some of our straight 8s or whatever, but yeah, that we're not to that point yet. But
now, is that answer an indication of how big a deal this was that the Slater was able to pull off to start one of these engines?
I would absolutely agree with that. Yeah, I mean, we
don't
know what
really.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, it really is a difficult endeavor to get something like that running.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like the gearheads and stuff, but for people that worked on that engine originally, those people are going away. We always talk about our Croker, trying to restore one of our Croker engines, and it's just like, people that served aboard even in through the 60s and into the late 60s, they're just kind of going away. So they might have the inherent knowledge, but we'd have to bring some people on with like a clean slate and really begin that step by step, because they're learning a new, relatively, now it's an engine's an
And
engine.
it depends, like the Little Rock wouldn't be able to start at all. Start off nothing.
Oh yeah,
She was cannibalized by the Navy when she was given to us. So
Yeah.
there's, we're lucky we could turn the lights on.
yeah. The turbines have been taken, some of the reduction gears have been kind of, messed with, and not by us, but, the AC/DC for her power panels are just missing, stuff like that.
Well, and there's another example of how hard it is to get something like this running. If it's been cannibalized over the decades and it's just been sitting, it's not like you can go to Napa or AutoZone and get replacement parts. If something's been cannibalized, chances are 9 times out of 10, you're never going to get those parts back.
Which is essentially why
And if you were able to get
in the first place.
Say that again.
Which is essentially why the Navy took them when they gave us the Little Rock, because they can't replace these parts.
Yeah, and if you do get some of these parts back, are they serviceable? Can they be used to start the engine again? Probably not. So what the Slater pulled off in this video is pretty amazing, and I think you're getting the recognition for it. I think, like you said a few moments ago, it's got 70,000 views. It's put you over the 1,000 subscriber mark. So I say congratulations. I think that's fantastic.
Well done.
Thank you.
Awesome
Thank you.
job,
Thank you.
John.
Yeah,
Awesome
and
job.
now you're doing. Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I was just go.
And now you're doing videos daily, right? As you had mentioned.
No. Weekly. I do my deck log video every week, and then the work vlog is typically every week as well. So it's usually 1 to 2 videos a week we do.
Oh, okay. I thought I was seeing, daily. Okay, forget it. I'm sorry.
One thing we did do a YouTube short. We repainted depth charges and we just reloaded it
Yes.
into our racks. Within 5 minutes, we were at 1,500 views on that. So that might be a new avenue.
Yeah, there's an interesting part, that depth charge loading part, where it kind of got hung up and then you had to like slam it home in the rack. Of course, it's not live, but I'm going, well, again, that's another pretty good video. I hope that one takes off too. And then you guys in another week or two have another big event coming up. Is that correct?
Who's that? Me? Slater?
Of course. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying. Am I still like spinning on my background?
No, it does. Yeah, it flips from the Slater to the probably one of the captains or something, but
It's not spinning though.
Oh.
You can see the Slater.
Oh, okay. It's just black screen on mine. Okay.
Oh yeah. No, I think you've landed at this point, so you're good.
Okay, good. Tomorrow is actually tomorrow's the Navy birthday. So we'll have a little ceremony at the ship for that. Next Thursday is our annual fundraiser. So that's gonna be cool. We have not. I don't think we've finalized if we're going to be taking video of that yet. We'll see.
now is that like an in-person? Like did you
Yes.
fundraise? Okay, so it's an in-person with.
It's a fundraiser. We'll have Park Stevenson. Will be there. He'll be doing a presentation on discovering the Samuel B. Roberts in June, and then we'll have one other speaker as well.
Nice.
Okay. And the Buffalo Naval Park. Okay, so we covered the Slater. What's been exciting with them? What's the latest and greatest with you guys?
Well, we got back from the conference and it was just right, going right to the wall again. Steven's been doing a lot with encampments. If he wants to cover that, I can cover what's been going on with the ships. But if you want to.
Yeah, it's just kind of been nonstop since we got back. I don't know if I even unpacked my suitcase, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, the encampments are a big part of like what we do here. We had 130 kids, or 130 campers, I should say, last weekend, and this weekend we have 220. So it takes up a really good chunk of my time in the spring and the fall, where I'm just kind of running around like crazy trying to organize this. But I mean, I have a lot of help. The guy that helps me run it, Andrew Turner, has been.
Wait, you guys have 200 people sleeping on the ship at once?
Yeah.
Wow. We cap ours at 50, and I'm like, holy, that's a lot.
Sleeping
Okay.
on which ship? Which ship
On the
are you
Croaker.
hosting these?
They all sleep on the Croaker. On the
All
Little
right,
Rock. They all
it's
sleep
on the Little Rock. Okay.
So, yeah, we have anywhere. I mean, a couple of weeks ago we had 32.
Right.
So, I mean, it really depends on the popularity of the weekend. For whatever reason, mid-October, it's just everyone's like, let's go sleep on the Little Rock.
Yeah.
This weekend, yeah, we have 220. Next weekend, we have 150.
I mean, I think to break even with the staff, because I mean, how big is the staff? 12 or something? Or
No, we're it depends. And again, it depends on the weekend. I can cut staff.
oh yeah.
Which unfortunately I hate to do, but sometimes you have to do when there's only 30 campers. But I have about 7 staff that we work with, and yeah, it's about 100 people we like to get in order to kind of break even there.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this, because I haven't really talked to you guys about this before, but let's just say hypothetically, let me pick one of the, let's say Michael Phillips wants to come to Buffalo and wants to stay on board the Little Rock. Can somebody like Michael just show up and pay a fee and say, I want to spend the night on the Little Rock?
So the way the encampments work is that you gotta have a kid.
For the encampment.
So it's not just Boy Scouts. I mean, the majority of it is Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Sorry, I should say Scouts of America, and Girl Scouts. But we do have families. I had a family of 4 this past weekend that came. Didn't know anybody. They just signed up, came, had a great time. But unfortunately, we did not offer it to just anybody. Right now, we just offer it to families. So I did have one guy. He's like, "Oh, me and my son want to, sleep on board." I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely. That's fine. You guys can sign up." He's like, "I should say my son is in his 30s." I was like, "Well, actually, no. Sorry." But it's not something we can't do. It's just right now we focus on the encampments, and that is kind of it's a family or a scouting troop or youth group, so whoever really wants to come. But it is like a kid family oriented type thing.
Yeah.
So somebody like me who does not have kids, I'm out of luck.
Let's caveat that.
I mean, you could borrow one of mine.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Will you rent one of your kids out? And if so, for how much?
Well, let's caveat though, because where there's the difference between encampments and for volunteers, they can stay on board.
Okay.
We might have an Admiral Visit, which we have had in the past. We offer that. We have old salts that are not volunteering, but they're visiting the ship for the first time since 1971. We allow them to stay on board. We just last week we had Chief Selectee initiation going on, so they slept on board. So, for Ken, for when you come and do your dirtiest jobs, you can stay on board.
Yeah, you can absolutely stay on board. Yeah, I mean, we just don't offer it to the general public. Is it something that we could do? Absolutely. We get people talking about it all the time, or I'll talk about the encampments, and they'll be like, "Oh, I want to do that." And they're like, "Yeah, I mean, have a kid, I guess."
Well, Battleship Texas.
Yeah, well, I wanted to.
Battleship
hello,
Texas,
Battleship
you guys.
Texas. We're gonna be talking about the Texas in a little bit. Although,
love that, love the cobia.
Battleship Texas. Who's checking in tonight from the Battleship Texas? Because I've tried to get in touch with you guys, and I hear nothing but crickets. And if you think I'm being a little harsh, maybe I'm not being harsh enough. I really want to talk to somebody from the Battleship Texas.
Travis is the guy to talk to. Travis is the guy to talk to. Yeah.
All right. Because we're going to be digging in a little bit later on, just so everyone's aware. I want to ask Shane and Steven what their experience was at the HNSA event in Hawaii, and at the same time, as I understand it, the Battleship Texas gave a pretty interesting presentation on what's going on in the Drydock. And so we're going to be kind of gossiping about the Battleship Texas later on. So whoever is checking in from the Texas, all the best. I could drop us a line.
I could get Travis's information though. For say updates on the Sullivans,
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, our naval marine architect has been chosen. To not many people's surprise, it's Joe Lombardi and his company, who has worked with the Texas. He worked with the Slater. He worked with the Laffey. He actually
worked with us too.
Yeah, he worked with us about 21 years ago or so. And so he's probably going to be coming. They're just putting the final nails in the well, coffin's not the right way of saying it, but they're putting the final
No,
nails
it's not.
on the contract, and just working things out with the city and things, just some final things. He'll be here hopefully in November, and so we're working on our winter plan right now of keeping the ship heated to at least 40 degrees in all the spaces, and getting the right amount of bubblers for the winter. Our volunteer group has really been growing, which has been fabulous. We've had a lot of work done, a lot of painting, a lot of work on the gun director platform, the Mark 57 gun director platform on the aft superstructure, trying to seal those up so there's no water incursion that goes down from the O2 level all the way down to, say, the main deck or even first platform. And then, of course, we're also having a lot of work done. We've got our working party from the fall working party from the Little Rock guys. So there's about 8 guys here now this week that are doing some work, and that's fabulous. They're working in the flag bags and the signal area, getting those painted and touched up. Working on little projects with rust and corrosion, like at door frames and things like that. So we got a lot going on here too.
Okay, you guys are in Buffalo. I'm here in Minneapolis. The temperatures in both places are right around the 50s, right? At least that's what it is here in Minneapolis.
Yeah,
It's cold.
Where do you draw the line temperature-wise, weather-wise, when it comes to the kind of maintenance you're just talking about? I'm actually surprised this kind of stuff's still going on.
I mean, we do maintenance year round.
Internally, yeah, we'll do maintenance. Today was 70 degrees. So I think.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so I think we kind of said today might be the last day if we want to get some paint onto some areas, if we want to get some, get some paint on a deck, do some scraping of some corrosion. They worked on it all day today, knowing it would probably be the last real nice day. Internally, since all of our ships do not have internal heat throughout the whole ship, we have spaces that have heat, but not the whole ship. But
Okay.
hopefully with the Sullivans this year and the plan, the whole, first platform, second platform, all of those areas below the main deck will be heated, and then we will be able to continue to do work. Because we do a little work, as you said, like last, but, now if we have access to the whole ship at 43 degrees, 44 degrees, something like that, that will really be helpful to continue the volunteer projects throughout the winter and keep that momentum going.
Got it. I'm really curious. So let's jump into your trip to the HNSA conference. For those of you that don't know, and I don't know how you wouldn't, Shane and Steven did a cross-country road trip. Their final destination or ultimate destination was the HNSA conference in Hawaii, but along the way, they hit various places like the Edson, the Chicago Museum of Science and Industry. I was able to meet up with these guys there.
As you can
That
see,
was
we met
interesting.
we met Howie Mandel in Chicago, which was really cool.
Yeah.
Look at that. I love that. We're all so you can never say that we don't pay attention, because look at our captivated looks.
I know.
Like
we are and I'm wearing my encampment shirt.
Oh yeah, you are wearing your encampment shirt. Look at that. That's cool. So yeah, so you're paying attention to what you were saying.
You're either captivated or extremely irritated. I don't know which one it was, but I had a lot of fun meeting you guys there. Of course, we were able to tour the U-505. That was fascinating. And then on from there, you guys went to Iowa
San Francisco.
Spent a lot of time in San Francisco. I think maybe a day and a half, 2 days in San Francisco before then you went on to Hawaii. So why don't you guys just kind of jump in and tell us what the HNSA conference was all about, what you learned, if anything surprised you, and I'll just leave that up to you guys.
I did learn where the middle of nowhere USA is from Shanna. She described that to me, that she grew up near the official middle of nowhere USA.
Oh yeah, Montana.
Yeah.
Right. So, for Stephen, he was, I had met some of these people at the previous 2 conferences. For Stephen, he really ingratiated and got to know people, Shanna and Dan and, many other, Ken and, Ryan and Libby. And, so there was a nice group of people that we mingled with, and Stephen was meeting, and he just got right in there. And
the boys from Salem, great group of guys there.
And Paul met them shortly after we did.
Yeah, Paul was there went to the Salem
2 days after we
and
were
was there a couple days later. But yeah, it was great. I mean, the networking part, I think, was probably my favorite part of being at that conference and getting to know people. Because then you do the conference during the day, and then at night you grab food or whatever, and you really get to talk about work then, right? Like, you're sitting and listening to presentations, which are great, but then you really get to talk about, what do you guys do? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And I mean, I came home with a wealth of knowledge just that I could, bring back here to the Naval Park, which is what I expected, and it was great. I mean, just amazing people that I got to meet.
Yeah. And it was, I'm just kind of reviewing some of the comments. Grout Museum, absolutely, Sam.
Oh, let's go in order. So we went to.
If we did look at the last one from Hoist.
Yeah, I know. I did a video. Yeah. Well, maybe one day. Yeah.
Okay, so the Edson. Right?
Yeah, so we went to the USS Edson, which was our first stop, which seems like forever ago. Right.
Yeah.
But the Edson was great. Beautiful ship. The way they do it is really well, and they paid you guys a big compliment, John, because I asked them. I was like, "Oh, you guys have a great volunteer set up here," and I was like, "How do you guys do it?" And he's like, "Oh, you have to ask the Slater. We just follow what they do."
The Edson was big in the early years of the Slater's restoration, because the Slater was moored right up alongside the Edson in New York City for 4 years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of their crew came over and did all the hard work.
Nice.
Bill Randall was the guy that gave us the tour. Yeah. He was an amazing guy. I don't know, we were there for 3 hours probably?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Again,
it was a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like forever ago. But the Edson was great. I mean, a beautiful ship, a beautiful museum ship too, the way they have everything set up. And the Twilight Zone, one of the episodes of the Twilight Zone was filmed there, so that was pretty cool.
The 33 Fathom Grave, I think it's called. Yeah, that was, and I watched that immediately. And what was interesting that I hope that they take advantage of was they were getting ready for their Halloween, so it was spiders everywhere, and I mean fake spiders and spider webs. But one of the spaces they have is their 9/11 compartment. That was a command center during 9/11 because they were in New York City on 9/11. And it would be really nice to tell that story incorporated into the ship's history.
Wait a second. The Edson was at 9/11? Was it New York City?
The Intrepid.
Yeah, it was.
No kidding.
It was in New York City for the first, years of her museum ship existence. And then they wanted to deaccession her, or something happened, and so the Navy took it back. And then after about, my God, it must have been 6 or 7 years, it finally ended up in Saginaw or Bay City.
How did it get from New York City to Saginaw? What did they do? Go through the
Put on a flatbed.
Oh yeah, flatbed. Is that what it was?
I like that we have this banter now.
I know, it's
episode
great.
3.
I don't like it at all.
No, the same way that the ships came.
Let's get rid of John right now.
The same way that the ships came to Buffalo through the St. Lawrence Seaway.
Is that what it was?
Canal.
Okay.
Welland Canal, Lake Erie, and then they're just heading up.
And so until you guys had visited the Edson, I wasn't familiar with it. So your road trip, which I thought was kind of a lark, I guess, to, also all of a sudden brought something like the Edson to my attention that I just plain old wasn't familiar with. So what was that like to visit?
Yeah, as Stephen had said, it was interesting from our perspective because that's a Forrest Sherman class. We have I had not been on a different class of destroyer. So just seeing those updated changes, ours was about 15 years earlier than the Edson. So you incorporate all of those changes that we didn't have in the Fletcher. Most notably, their 5-inch 54 for me, which was auto-loaded. So they could fire, I think he said 30 rounds a minute, or was it 30 rounds a minute? Maybe. And then, just their service, because it was constructed in 58, they were much more involved with Vietnam. We were kind of out of it by that time. So just the layout of the interior spaces was interesting. She was her beam is a little bit bigger, but it's
45 feet.
45, yeah. So, but it seems so much more airy, didn't it? Like it seemed
did.
like, compared to ours, you could tell that they've learned from the Fletcher, and even though the Fletcher is the best class of destroyer to me.
The first part of the video is up on our YouTube page, and you actually talk about that in part one of that. Wow, I can't even talk. The Edson video is up, the first part of the Edson video. So we do talk about the beam in that.
Yeah, and so it just seemed much more larger than just 6 extra feet wide at the beam. I mean, it just because of the layout, right? Their mess deck was set up differently. We did get to tour some of the spaces, the engine space. I think we did aft steering, which was cool because they have 2 rudders. Fletchers only have 1, so we had the 2 stations. And that was unique. That was cool for me and for us to see. So yeah, we and then we talked, of course, about like maintenance and what they do and how they can do it. And certainly the weather is very similar to all of our areas, Minnesota, Albany, us, them up in Bay City. So yeah, it's and they have a very active river there. I think there's even lake freighters that go by. Kind of similar to us, but they might have a little more lake freighter that goes by. So, they have to worry about things like wakes and things like that, right? That they talk about.
Yeah, they did talk. I don't know if they talked about it in the video at all, but they did talk about how they almost got knocked over.
Yeah.
Not the ship itself, but they were on the ship and a wake hit it, and
yeah, they were
2
like
of
on
them
a
fell.
scaffold
Yeah.
or something. Yeah, so it's all, again, different challenges. I know we can spend a lot of time going through all of this, but
and then so let's go on from the Edson then, and then immediately from one extreme to the other. You're talking about the Edson, in a river with wakes going by. Now all of a sudden you're talking about a German U-boat in the middle of a beautiful, fantastic museum. So this was stop number 2.
Yeah.
I love this. I love the way that it was indoors. I wish we could do something like that for Sullivan's. Like, how cool would that be?
I know you had talked about that almost immediately. Stephen had said, wouldn't this be interesting to do with the Sullivans? And it totally would be, because look at all that space. If everyone's looking at the picture, look at all that artifact space, all of that exhibit space that you can build right in. And that leads you to the entrance. So you have everything you need by the time you walk through the pressure hull right into the sub. And it was just, we were blown away by it.
Yeah, it's a pretty amazing display. John, if I'm not mistaken, you've never been there before, is that correct?
No, I haven't, but I'm looking at those torpedoes and
Yeah. They also have, I know it's right out of frame, but they also have hanging.
Yeah, let me see if I can pull that up.
One of their forward torpedo tubes. So it's like just come out, and they must have obviously really strong fishing line or something that's clear that you can't really see. So it's just kind of like hanging there right forward of the torpedo tube. And, it just was an amazing thing, something you can do indoors. So they really take advantage of the indoor, you could just plop a ship indoors, but they've got the lighting. As you can see, it looks like water. So when they constructed this and they planned this out, they really planned it so to take advantage of things like the torpedo coming out that you probably couldn't have to the same effect if she was sitting in water.
I think, although it's
Well,
not
there
a
it is.
very
Yeah, there's
big
something.
picture, yeah. Ironically, I actually took a look at how they had this displayed. You can kind of see one of the cables on the right-hand side. It is a pretty hefty cable. And if I'm not mistaken, a torpedo like this easily weighed, if not a ton and a half, at least 1 ton. If any of you guys in the comments know, please let me know what a German torpedo weighs, because it's pretty impressive when you're walking under it.
Yeah. I'm just again looking at some of the questions.
Yeah. Well, and then from the 505, then you guys went to Iowa, which you had posted a couple of different, if they weren't live, I think they were both live broadcasts that you guys posted of visiting the Sullivan's Museum.
Yeah, I think I did a couple of live right while we were right in there, but I also did.
I have no memory.
Did
you do live?
For my phone,
Yeah,
I think I did a couple live. That was absolutely amazing. Shout out to Nick. Actually, shout out to that whole staff there, because they went above and beyond for us. We didn't just go to the Grout Museum, but we went to some guy's house.
Mike. Yeah.
This guy Mike, who has just this fantastic collections of Sullivans.
Just his own research.
Yeah, his own research, and we went to his house. That was like, we didn't know we were doing that. We went to the school/church that the Sullivan boys went to. We do have video of that. Unfortunately, the building is
but it makes it
abandoned.
cool. It makes it cool.
But we do have video inside. We went inside whether we were supposed to or not. We went to the cemetery. Shane had his made right sandwich.
Yeah.
But the Grout Museum itself was amazing. we were looking at like letters and George Sullivan's hat and like all these things that we talk about but never see. So to actually see them in person, listening to a couple of the Sullivan's audio, Genevieve, listening to their voices on audio. It was unbelievable.
And that's one of the things that I think, because the Sullivan story is so famous, we haven't captured that, but we're starting to capture that. This is something that we have that unfortunately many other museum ships don't have. Like, the Midway or Lady Lexington, they don't have another museum somewhere else that represents what they represent like the Sullivans does. There's a whole another museum about the Sullivans, and it's a part of the larger museum as a whole, because it's for all of Iowa and all veterans within Iowa, the state of Iowa. But now we have access to a lot of those resources that they have that we didn't have before, nor did we ever build that connection. So it was important.
Well, and that's what I love about this story so much. And I've mentioned it so many times in the past, because as an outsider, like myself, I find it interesting that museums, not all museums, but a lot of museums, don't have the tendency to communicate between each other. And so you guys, by taking this road trip on, all of a sudden you've made a connection that it sounds to me like is going to last a long time. And you guys could make all kinds of future plans amongst each other.
Yeah. And, I am remiss, like for the USS Barber or for John, for the Slater, it would be like having access to those family members and like their materials from the namesake, right? That doesn't often, and certainly with just destroyers or destroyer escorts, but it doesn't happen very often that a museum ship can build a relationship with the namesake's family. But that might be something that I would, certainly recommend throughout, if there's a way of finding and communicating with the family of the namesake, that would be, and that's kind of comparable to what we now have access to. They have spent years cultivating a relationship with the Swenson family, who was the captain of the Juno. And so they have material from, his second wife and letters that she was getting from the family of the, sailors on the Juno, not just the Sullivans. So for them cultivating, obviously, the Sullivan family, but now the Swenson family, that just opens the door for, to build that story and to fill those gaps. And it's important for us to foster that relationship, and it was thrilling that we were able to go. Of course, we met with Kelly Sullivan for about 2 hours, and we caught her up with everything. And so it, trying to fill that gap of relationships that were not built here earlier. And it would be great.
I'm sorry, Shane. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, when it comes to the Edson, the 505, the Sullivans, this whole road trip leading up to getting over to Pearl Harbor, if you had to finish the sentence, I wish I had more time to visit X.
Probably some of the other ships in San Francisco, I think, for me, like the Pampanito, the submarine, right?
Yeah, when we got there, people that we developed relationships with said, "Oh, you were in California for 2 days? Well, you should have come up to Stockton, or you should have come up." We talked about the Jeremiah O'Brien, we talked about the USS Lucid, and we went to the Hornet, and then we went to Pier 70 where the Sullivans was constructed. Again, we have videos of that will be coming out. But yeah, I would probably agree with Steve in that. Although we did say it would have been nice to spend an extra day in Waterloo.
Yeah, I take that back. It would have been nice to do 2 days in Waterloo and 1 day in San Francisco, but it just didn't work out that way. Or even 1 day in Chicago, but unfortunately, it didn't work out that way. I did have a lot of fun in Waterloo. It was quite the adventure, quite the day. Maybe it was just the running around and doing all the things that we did, but I feel like we got so much accomplished in Iowa in such a short amount of time. And we were in Waterloo for, 7 hours. Yeah. Because we didn't even stay in Waterloo. We drove to Des Moines after that to fly to San Francisco.
Oh, guys, and we were shot by that time, and we didn't take a wrong turn, but we were driving through cornfields at like 10:30 at night, and I'm like, oh my God. I got a little stressed out that night because, what was I saying? Like, those are the country roads that people will die on, because people blow through stop signs, and we didn't really know obviously we don't know the area, but it was, that was because we had to get from Des Moines. So we left Chicago, did Waterloo, then drove to Des Moines for a 6 o'clock flight to San Francisco. We didn't arrive until 11:30 or midnight into Des Moines. So we slept for 3 hours and then had to get back up again and get right to the airport for our flight to San Fran. So,
yeah, San Francisco was, I think by the time we got to San Francisco, we were kind of like planning out our day. I know we did a live video. That's when we did them live. So
I think when we
did
live.
Well, and you had bad weather in San Francisco too.
The first day, it was we were gonna try to do something, but then it was like raining, and we talked about Pier 70, but we're not going to take that camera out in that sort of rain that was there. So we just we said that would be a nice day just to lay low and just to kind of try and catch our breath. So.
And if I'm not mistaken, your phone, Shane, doesn't have a camera. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
I didn't think so. Yeah, for those of you that aren't aware,
hey, well, we didn't talk about. Oh.
Shane's phone is ridiculously primitive. I've never seen anything like it. I hope I don't see anything like it again. But
is it a flip phone?
I don't know.
Did you say light phone, John?
No, is it a flip phone?
Oh no, it's not a flip phone, but it's called light phone. So
Like,
it's
okay.
yeah. So it's yeah. I know.
What makes
John,
it even better is that I lost my phone for 2 days, so we had no phone for 2 days. And
right. We can't call an Uber. We can't, there's many other things, so yeah. And I apologized to Stephen about, that say, oh, I'm sorry, we're relying on your technology. But, I mean, we should also talk about the dinner we had in Chicago. We went with Ken.
Oh, Gino's, that was great.
Yeah, we went to
First time
Gino's East or whatever. Yeah,
Gino's East, yeah.
I think it's
First time I had Chicago style pizza.
yeah.
And being from downstate in New York, we like to trash any other pizza that's not New York pizza. And I was sadly mistaken. Chicago pizza is fantastic.
Yeah, it was good.
It was absolutely.
Oh yeah, it was really good. I loved having dinner with you guys too. It was a lot of fun.
Good.
I got a couple of questions about Hawaii, and the last time we did a live broadcast, you had mentioned that, or at least you were prepared to be peppered with questions about the Sullivans. Anything ranging from, how did it happen? How did you guys get it floating again? I mean, so did that happen? Were you guys kind of the center of attention for a while?
I didn't feel like we were the center of attention at all, actually. And that was nice. Was it a topic of conversation in, over drinks or dinner or whatever? Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't ever. I mean, everybody was cool about it.
Yeah, it was like Stephen and I did discuss maybe on the second day of the conference. It's like they're saying stuff, but they're not using us as the example when clearly we are. But what happened was we did the first day, we had a 4-hour presentation from a company that is an expert in corrosion. And when I was talking to Jonathan, who's the executive director or president of the Iowa, the LA, I think the website is LA Battleship, I believe it is. He said we brought them on that 4-hour presentation because of what happened to the Sullivans. And so I had a lot of sidebar conversations with a lot of people. People would come up to us individually while we were having a bagel in the morning or something.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, tell me more about this. But it wasn't a group thing. We had multiple people over the 3 days, want a sidebar with us kind of thing.
And I never got the feeling that it was anything negative or anything. Yeah. And, I think it brought to some people, and I could be wrong, but like that preservation is important. And that the Sullivans was a good example of why we so desperately need to preserve these ships that aren't supposed to last 80 years. They're supposed to last 20 years, 30 years. And, they haven't been upkept, like the Sullivans hasn't been upkept by the Navy since 1965. So we have a maintenance team of a handful of guys that are great, but it's not a Navy maintenance that are constantly working on the ships. So I think it really pushed preservation to the forefront. But again, I never got anything from anybody or even the feeling like, oh, there's the Sullivans guys or anything like that. It was nothing but positivity, really.
Yeah, and I think Stephen hit the nail on the head. The Sullivans was used as an example to say, this will happen to every other ship out there, right? And what we do now, and to learn from the Sullivans. So yeah, really using us as an example. Certainly the Laffey was in a bad way, in a bad spot a few years ago. So it just reinvigorates the need for a cyclical volunteer program, maintenance program. I know that I'm using the word cyclical, but I'm trying to find the other word. But like a regimented schedule of maintenance, preservation, and it all goes together, right? We're not doing much restoring, except for John said they're doing restoring. But preservation, conservation, maintenance, and getting into those areas that we sometimes can forget, because we're walking by the ship every day or walking in the ship every day. Those areas that we can just forget about sometimes is just as important as the ones that are on the tour route. So.
And Shane mentioned the 4-hour presentation, which was on the first day of presentations. And it was long, but it was unbelievably informative and thinking of things that I personally never thought of. Not that I'm an expert in any way whatsoever, but just the little things that you could do to preserve the ship that you don't even think of, like even just tiny little things that are going to help here and there.
Such as?
One of the things that, a lot of these ships, we put the non-skid paint on it or the non-skid mats. And that can actually hide like corrosion underneath it if it's not done properly, which is one of the things that I thought of because we use non-skid paint all the time, which is essential in Buffalo weather. So little tiny things that I personally don't think of. It's also why I'm not in charge of maintenance or anything like that. But things like that would come up and I'm like, oh, you know what? That makes sense.
Well, and I don't know how many times John's mentioned it on the Slater, but ships rust from the inside. And he's stressed many times cleaning of the bilges is one of the biggest things you can do to make sure that these things remain floating.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know, but in the early 2000s, Slater used to flood Shaft Alley because we had a leak. Not a lot of water, but at one point, I believe it was port side Shaft Alley, actually flooded into one of our engine rooms. And then we finally got down there and fixed the leak around the shaft and repainted it. Now it's great, but if you don't do it from the inside, you're gonna get leaks.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about one of the biggest maintenance projects that I think is going on right now. And you said that this was also addressed during the HNSA conference. Who made the presentation or a presentation about the Battleship Texas?
That was Travis. I can't remember his last name offhand, but he's he was intricate in every aspect of the dry docking preparation. So he was the right guy to do the presentation. So we've talked to him a couple of times before the conference about how things were going, and we want to use him as a facilitator for us, and not a consultant per se. But he says, I'll be willing to come up to Buffalo, talk to your staff, talk to the project team, the management team about your dry docking. So again, as Stephen said, that really helpful behavior, or that camaraderie.
What did they have to say or present to you guys about what was going on? Because at the time, let's see, if I'm not mistaken, the Texas was lifted out of the water, I think at the very end of August. And so you guys were there maybe in Hawaii, maybe like 10 days, not quite 2 weeks later. What did they have to present at that particular point about what was going on with the Texas?
Thank you, Candace.
Travis Davis with the
okay. And I kind of knew I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I said, well, I think his last name kind of rhymes with his first name. So, but I couldn't, Travis Davis, but I couldn't put it together. Thanks, Candace. And thank you to everyone who's commenting. I'm sorry, we're just kind of focused on the four of us here, but you guys are having a lot of good comments. And thank you, Sam, for saying stuff.
Candace, and I met Candace at HNSA. She's a staff member at Texas.
Yeah, right. And so
no kidding.
So she's the one listening. Look at that look at those beautiful pictures. I tell you that. So,
well, and for anyone that wants to learn more about the Battleship Texas, please visit battleshiptexas.org, www.battleshiptexas.org, because that's where these pictures come from. It's, they're fantastic photos that they're posting on the website, and that's great. But there's a lot of, I don't know, the whole thing's fat. Like if I click on this next, what was involved in getting this thing out of the water? It's a it's a monumental task. They had to float a floating dry dock into Galveston to lift it out. Here's a picture. So it's finally out of the water. That's impressive. But then the work that's going on, they're cutting holes into the torpedo blister, you know, as part of this project. But I don't think they were doing this at the time that you guys were in Hawaii. So what were they talking about when you were there?
Well, they were talking about what they were going to be doing and what the cost of that was. So I think he threw out the number 22 million. And then they had a list of about 5 or 6 things that they wanted to accomplish. One of them, now this foam he really talked about. So what you're seeing and everyone's seeing is the foam, and they're using water jets. So they're not using any fire at all on the torpedo blisters or anywhere below the water line. It's water jets with granite, ground up granite, and you're putting that, I don't even know the pounds per square inch or the pressure per square inch, and it's cutting right through the steel. They're going to be removing that foam, about 750,000 gallons of foam that they had on.
Wow.
And that was just to help that 9-hour, I think it was about 9 hours to dry dock. So they put all that foam in there just to give it that little extra security while she was going to dry dock, and then it was immediately going to be removed. But as you can see,
oh,
there,
no kidding. So the foam was just a temporary measure to get it
yes,
over to where the dry dock was. So the foam wasn't there for decades, if you will, inside the torpedo. It was just a temporary measure.
Yeah, I mean I think they added the foam last year or maybe a year and a half ago. So it was temporary in terms of it was, helping to protect the ship throughout this past year and a half. But you can see the framing, the longitudinal framing. You can see the lightning holes in that picture. And you can just see, again, the degradation, along the baffles there, along the side. And you can even look through the cut hole. You can see the other lightning hole right there. So they're doing a complete rework of all of that framing, the stanchion work.
Yeah. And for those of you that aren't aware, the Battleship Texas, I think, well, definitely prior to World War II, but I want to say it might have been at the end of the 20s, beginning of the 30s, these torpedo blisters were added to the starboard and port sides of the hull, and they're removing this, and what they're finding is all kinds of rust and corrosion underneath. Again, another picture from battleshiptexas.org. I mean, it's amazing at what they're doing.
Yeah, those torpedo blisters, I think, were added in 24, and that was the technology at the time. But yeah, they even said when Travis had mentioned when it went to become a museum ship, even back in 1946, they had at least 10 feet of water in their torpedo blister back then.
Wow.
And there was not much work done, very basic maintenance measures up until about 1983. And then from 1983 on, they had really focused on getting her, conserved and preserved in the proper way. But from 46 to 83, they didn't do very much. And I think that's the way it was set up with the commission in the state of Texas. They could only dedicate a certain amount of money to the preservation of this. So I don't want to keep blabbing on and on about this. If you please, John and Stephen, if you have more, add.
Well, I see John answered William's question. Will the torpedo blisters be rebuilt? As I understand it, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, the short answer is yes, but the long answer is they're going to be replaced with something a little bit lower profile, and maybe Candace can even throw in an answer as well. What do you know, John?
Really, all I know is just a new version is being installed.
Yeah.
I don't know any specifics.
Well, I think what I'm going to try and do is, whether it's Candace or Travis, possibly the next episode of Museum Ship Mafia, the next live event that we do, I'll see if I can't get someone from the Battleship Texas to join us and give us an update a little bit more in depth than just the conversation we're having about it, because I think the whole thing is fascinating. You know, not only the work that they're doing, but even just what it took to get it there, even to raise the funds to do this. I think it's just a fascinating story.
Yeah, I could get you Travis's, or if Candace is still on, I don't know if she, but you know, if you want to give your, I do have Travis's email. I could send that to you.
Oh, fantastic. Or, you know, Candace, or if anyone's watching, you know, I'm easy to get a hold of. historyxchannel@gmail.com. You know, shoot me an email. I'd love to, you know, have someone on from the Battleship Texas. Well,
there was, and William just asked a question. Was there any truth to the story about they did have concrete on the main deck, which they pulled up, I believe, in 1983 when they started formalizing a restoration or a preservation and conservation plan. That was one of the first things they did. But probably from 46 to 83, there was slab, you know, poured concrete on the main deck.
no kidding. And that wouldn't, well, obviously, I'm sure they didn't put so much on there to compromise the center of gravity, but anytime I'd hear about concrete on the main deck, I just think that would just totally ruin the center of gravity, but I guess not.
Well, we do have, you know, for our emergency measures, we do have concrete. You know, Stephen and I both talked about, you know, the 4-foot gash on one side. We have another gash on port side that has been temporarily sealed with concrete. Now, if you have a driveway and it's concrete, you know what happens. It's porous. It will eventually crack, and water, you know, just can intrude everywhere. So it's a temporary measure but I don't know what their goal was when they put the concrete on the main deck. Was it their permanent solution? You know, weather's a little different down there, but you know, for us up north, we know what happens to sidewalks there and driveways that are concrete. So
I just glanced at the clock, and we've already been talking for about an hour. So what I mean, I've got so many more questions, but at the same time, it's like, I know I need to cut this off because where you guys are, it's 9 p.m. What, I guess, just say, like, wrap up comments about the HNSA conference. Anything else that you feel that we would want to know?
The flight home from Hawaii sucks.
I mean, guys, that is yeah, I mean, that was, we left at 7 a.m. That was very nice, though. We didn't get a lay when we landed, but we did get a send-off. So I wonder if they do that at every gate. Like, they've got the ukulele players, and there was a dancer. And so as we're entering on to the plane, on the jet ram or whatever those things are called.
I don't think it's called that.
Okay. What is it? But then they had, like, a band wishing us goodbye, which was a nice touch.
Because they recognized you as being Shane and Steven from the Buffalo Naval Park?
It was specifically just for us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But okay. Yeah, I mean, it was great to see, you know, it was great to see Tim and Shanna, and, you know, you guys were awarded really nice awards from Naval History and Heritage Command and HNSA. Well deserved. The Cass and Young, you know, there are others, but you know, well deserved for you guys. And yeah, just look forward to next year. I really look forward to Albany. You know, I'm
well, that's what I wanted to get to. It's like, okay, so the last little bit that I want to cover is that, and I don't think it's really been announced, is that the next HNSA conference is actually going to be in Albany at the USS Slater.
Yeah, it's going to be the first time the Slater's ever hosted it. It's a little nerve-wracking because it's a lot of planning, but hey, Shanna's really good at what she does. So she has about 10 months, or give or take, to do all the work. So good luck to her.
And take care of the walrus.
Yeah. We've already got him, got a few photographs with Wally.
Yeah. It's a lot closer.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that you know, Steven's right. It's 7 a.m. in Hawaii, 5-hour flight to San Francisco, 4-hour layover in San Francisco. red-eye to New York City. Now it's 8 o'clock in the morning the next day. Then an hour flight to Buffalo. We were, I did, even though you might make fun of my phone, I think I left it on the plane and we were walking out and I had to turn around and I said, oh my God. So I had to run to one of the flight attendants.
Why did you have to turn around and go get it?
Couldn't I? Yeah, oh, I love this.
Yeah.
All my content.
Maybe it's just time for a new phone, Shane.
Oh, buddy, come on. Love it. I'm too connected anyway. But really look forward to Albany.
You guys are going to sleep on the ship, right?
Yeah.
Well, is that going to be an option? Are you for the HNSA conference? Are you going to have people or availability on the ship for people to stay?
Yeah. Officers' country can fit 15. You got captain's cabin. You got chiefs. And then we have two full
I'll take the
berthing
captain's
orders.
cabin.
Yeah.
No.
Well, you're a polywog. You're a polywog. So you haven't been to the conference yet. You're a polywog.
All joking aside, I will take the captain's cabin.
I'm sure that's going to be reserved for Ryan.
Probably Ryan or Janet, But yeah, Ken, we'd love to see, I don't want to speak for anyone else. I don't want to invite you to where, it's really the Slater's job, but it would be nice to have you and, there next year.
Oh, I'd love it. I'd love to fly into Buffalo and then do a road trip with you guys over to Albany.
Oh man, are you sure about that?
No, well, actually, no, I guess not.
You should have heard some of the music that we were listening to on our drive on the first trek there. It was it's pretty fun.
Well, let's wrap this up because, like I said, we've gone over the hour. USS Slater, Albany, New York. John Epp, curator. What do you got coming up to close out the season? I know next week you said you've got your last fundraiser. If anyone wants to learn more about that, what can they visit? Where should they go to learn more? Yeah,
so more immediately, if anyone is in the area, like tomorrow, we'll have a little ceremony in the morning at 10 a.m. It's the Navy's birthday. Next Thursday is our annual fundraiser. It's kind of an invite only type deal, but that's where we raise a ton of money to fund our projects and get us through the winter when we're closed. Then we will be closing up for the season the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and we'll open back up the first Wednesday of April next year.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Okay. Our schedule shifts. We're so we open in late March, and then we close the week before Thanksgiving. Though I have a curator tour on that Black Friday to try and capture people who come in from out of town to visit their family. Please, everybody, even if you can't go to Albany, contribute, donate for their annual fundraiser. We had a really good one this year. We raised some good funds, but we always, we raised $53,000 at our fundraiser, but moving something's going to cost, $800,000. Yeah, right. $800,000 or whatever. So even though it seems like, and it is, people are really contributing, make sure you support the Slater, join Ken's History X channel, members.
Well, and you actually touch on a really good point. Even though the Slater is killing it right now on YouTube, they just monetized, they can always use more subscribers. And like I always say, it is not only one of the easiest, but also one of the most effective ways that you can support the YouTube channel. Check out their videos, give them views, but also just simply click and subscribe. So if you've never checked out the Slater's YouTube channel previously, they've got a fantastic video up there right now showing that engine startup. Just do a simple YouTube search for USS Slater. It'll take you right to it. And you'll probably watch the video 2 or 3 times at least, like I did. So a lot of good content on the USS Slater. When it comes to Shane, Steven, what's in store for the end of the season for the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park?
A nap.
Okay.
A nap?
Well, certainly encampments. He's been talking about his encampments. We're doing a Veterans Day ceremony. We're doing a Halloween, ship and treat or something it's called.
Ship or treat. Yeah, we're actually, that's pretty, that's something we're doing this year, where kids will get their trick or treat on the ships, which I'm really excited about. That's another thing I've been planning since I got back.
But we're going to get to the videos as well. We have a lot of videos. It's a lot of work. Steven's been up against it with but I know we're still knowing that the schedule for all of those films that we took.
You'll have Edson Part 2 this week. I promise, people. I promise.
And then I'm really looking forward to the Sullivans, but yeah,
Ralph Wilson Jr. Day. If anyone who knows who that is, we do celebrate his.
We did get a Go Bills comment.
We did get a Go Bills. Go Bills.
From Eric. Yes, thank you.
Ralph
Go
Wilson,
Sabres.
Ralph Wilson Jr. was the owner of the Bills for a long time, but I mean, we have a display for him, an exhibit, and we do celebrate him here because he was in the Army. Navy.
Lieutenant Commander of a Minesweeper.
There you go.
Well, and what I just said for the USS Slater also stands for the Buffalo and Erie County Naval and Military Park. Check out their videos. If you haven't already done so, subscribe, like their channel. It's a huge boost to all of us. And so, yeah, who is this? Diver Dan, Navy vet. Liking and commenting on the videos helps the YouTube algorithm as well. 100% correct. So, subscribe to these channels definitely, but also give them views. It's a great way to just bring exposure to both museums, and I can't say it enough. It's one of the simplest but most effective ways to throw your support behind their efforts. USS Slater and the Buffalo Naval Park.
Hey Ken, do you want to mention? Ken, I'm sorry. Do you want to mention real quick any of the people for guest appearances that might be coming up over the next couple of months?
Well, I don't have anything locked in yet. So all I'll say is stay tuned to, you can check out the Museum Ship Mafia Facebook page on all 3 channels. Now that the Slater is over 1,000 subscribers, you guys, the Slater, can now start posting on its community tab. So when we get news of the next guest that we'll have on, like I said, I'd like to have someone from the Battleship Texas, but whoever we get for next month, you'll start to see notifications. So check out Museum Ship Mafia Facebook page. And last but not least, I just want to apologize to Ryan Szymanski. We really wanted to have him on tonight. We just simply ran out of time. So Ryan, hopefully we'll be able to have some time in the future to get you on. Our apologies to Ryan Szymanski from the Battleship New Jersey. Let's see. With that being said, anything else that I may have forgotten, guys?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, my name's Ken Stano from the YouTube channel History X. Thanks everyone for joining us, and keep an eye out for notifications on our next live broadcast. It's been great having you guys with us. And with that being said,
comment.
Well, what do we got? It'd be great to get someone from the USS Kid on. I don't know. Do we know anyone from the Kid?
Yeah,
maybe. We'll
maybe.
have Parks Stevenson on. As we all know, he is now he's involved with the USS Kid. I'm not sure if he's the director or what his title is, but we'll have him on once he gets settled. You're talking about a busy guy right now who's moving from California to Louisiana and settling into a new position. But once we know that he's settled in at the Kid, we'll definitely have Parks Stevenson back on. Any other comments that I may have missed, John?
I think you're good. Oh yeah, Tim Nesmith from the Kid is a really good guy to have on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh yeah. Andy says or Hoist says, yeah, I would love to have Tim on as well. He's just he's been there for 20 years or something. He's a wealth of knowledge as well. So, and there's a Slater. The Slater and the Kid have a good connection. So,
Yeah, our director was the director of the Kid before he came to the Slater.
And then
I
forgot Shane. Oh yeah. And then I was trading messages with Brian from the Galveston Naval Museum as well. So it's really interesting how many people have contacted us that really would like to be part of the Museum Ship Mafia for future broadcasts. So stay tuned. Occasionally check out Museum Ship Mafia on Facebook. You'll see some notifications and updates on there. Anything else?
Have a good evening, guys.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, again, I'm Ken Stano from the YouTube channel History X. Hope everyone enjoyed the broadcast tonight. We'll see you in a month. And in the meantime, hope everyone has a great evening.